Hello and welcome to today's Python tutorial. Today we are going to talk about if statements, or also they're called conditionals or control structures in Python. So for that I'm going to use replay.com. If you don't have an account already, you can create a free account here, and then let's just create a new REPL. The language should be Python. Let's give it a name. I want to call it conditionals. And let's create a REPL. So a very simple and nice environment is provided for us, so we can write our code here and we will see the results here on the console. Okay, now before getting into the if statements, there are a couple of concepts which are important, and that is data types. So we have a couple of data types which are basic and you need to know them. For example, let's create a variable called name, and name is going to be John. And have you noticed I've put John inside quotes, single quotes or double quotes, either is fine. And now if I print name, so I use print function, parentheses, and then I put the name of the variable here, which is name. If I run this, I should see John here. Now if I want to see what type is name variable, I can simply add type to it and put name inside the parentheses here. So you can see I'm printing the type of name. Let's run this and you can see it belongs to the class str, which stands for string. So John is basically a string data type. Another one is integer. So for numbers, let's say we have age, and our age is going to be something like 30. So what is 30? So let's just put age now inside instead of name, and let's see the type of age. It's an int or an integer, so let's just say integer. Let's have another one like weight, and weight is going to be 72.5. Now what is the type of weight? If I run this, you can see I have floats. So those with decimal points are floats in Python. So floats. And the last one is going to be something which is overweight, is called boolean. And booleans are true or false values. And you can see the color is different. I don't need to put it inside quotes. And if I print the type of overweight here, I should get bool for boolean. Now this is also type boolean. Okay, so these knowledge of these types is very important, because let's say I want to print the result of the addition of age and weight. These two are numbers, so I can do mathematical operations on them. If I run this, you can see 102.5, right? Now if I change John to, let's say, 80 to a number, but still keep the quotes, it is still a string, it's not a number. So if instead of age I use name here, which is 80, I should run into an error which says you can only concatenate, that is combine a string with a string. I can't add a string to a number. I can't do mathematical operations between a string and a number. This is just a sequence of characters now. It's something like this. I cannot add this to 30 or 40. So this is important to know. Now what I can do, however, is to turn name into a integer if I need it. For example, if I have 80 as a string, I cannot do this operation, right? But if I change the type of name to an integer or to a float, I can. How can I change it? I can simply say, let's say I have int underscore name. Now I want to change the type of name into an integer. I can simply use int function, and inside int I can use my variable name, which is 80, as a string. Now it will turn this 80 into a real number. Now I can add it. If I use int name, this new variable, this is now 80 as an integer, not as a string. So this should work, you see, and it does. I can also turn int into a float, and the same thing happens, you see. So now name has turned into a float instead of a string. Okay, let's change it back to John. And why is it useful? Now, let's say we are going to get the input of a user and save it in a variable. And in Python, when you get the user's input, you get them in the form of a string, even if the user enters a number. For example, let's say we have a variable height, and its height is going to be the input the user provides. So input function, and inside that we are going to write something like, what is your height? And if I run this, what is your height here is the input. So whatever I write here, like 1.78, this is basically a float. But when I press enter, it gets saved, it gets stored, 1.78 gets stored in height as a string. So something like this, not as a float. So I can't do any mathematical operations on it. I can't multiply it by 2, I can't add anything to it, any number to it. So what I need to do is to turn all this that the user provides into a float. So I can simply say float, and then put whatever the user inputs inside a float. Now let's just print the type of height that we get. So if I run this again, and if I say 1.8, you see the type that I get is float. So I can do some mathematical operations on it now. I can say, for example, height multiplied by 2, and let's just see what we get, 1.78, and this is what I get, a number. So this is something that you should do if you want to get a number from the user and you want to do something with that number. Now what about this Boolean thing? So in Python we have assignment operators like this equal sign here. That is, when you assign 30 to age, it means age from now on is 30. But we also have logical operators. And what I mean by that is, I want to check, for example, I want to print that if, let's say 30, or let's say age, is equal to weight, and I'm using double equals to check if their values are the same. I'm not assigning weight to age. I'm not saying that wage should be equal. No, I'm checking if the values of age and weight are the same. So I'm using double equals. If it is true, it should print out true. If it's false, well, it prints out false because they are not the same. And what if I want to check if age is not equal to weight? For that, I need to use exclamation mark and one equal sign. It means age is not equal to weight. Is this correct? Is this true or not? It gives true because age is not equal to weight. So these are called logical operators, and they are double equal to check if two values are the same. You have exclamation equal if something is not equal to something else. You have bigger than or greater than. You have greater than and equal to. You have smaller than or smaller than and equal to. Now let's check these again. So if I print age smaller than weight, so this is true, right? 30 is smaller than 72, so I should get true. Again, if I say smaller than or equal to true, this is again true. So because age is smaller or equal to weight. And if I use greater or equal, I should get false. Because, you see, because 30 is not greater than 72.5. So these are called logical operators. To compare two values. Remember, This one equal sign is assignment operator, 2 is a logical operator to compare things. Now, let's get to our if statements. Let's say that if, so for if statements we use if word, and then we have an expression, if what? So if age is greater than, let's say 20, then we have colons, press enter, and remember that we have some space here. You see? We call it indentation. This should be present. So if age is greater than 20, if this is true, then this should happen. What? Let's print, let's above 20, for example. What is age? Is 30, and it's bigger than 20, so this should happen. If I run this, above 20. But if it's, let's say, 10, age is not greater than 10, so nothing happens. So maybe I want to also have another scenario, that if age is not greater than 20, what then? So I say else, colons, press enter, and look, there is still indentation. Else, that is if age is not greater than 20. What should happen? Let's print something like not or below or equal to 20. Now if I run this, below or equal to 20, why? It goes through this. If age greater than 20, is it? 10 is not greater than 20, so it skips this and goes here. This should happen. What if age is 20? Which one do you think runs? Again, below. Why? Because this means greater than 20, not equal. So for that, I can say greater or equal to 20. Now if I run this, I guess above 20, because now I have the equal sign here. Now I want to say if age is equal to 20, then print you are 20, and else not 20. So age is 20. Is 20 equal to 20? Yes. So this will print out. Look, you are 20. So this is how it happens. Now, let's have another scenario. So we are going to check for BMI, that is body mass index. And what that is here. How to calculate body mass index. So body mass index is a simple calculation using a person's height and weight. The formula is BMI, body mass index, equals the weight based on kilograms and height squared. So divided by height squared. So we need the weight and the height. Let's do this. So we have the weight here. Let's say, yeah, it's like that for kilograms. And let's also have height equals to 178. So what we should do is to calculate BMI, which was, remember, weight divided by height multiplied by height itself to get these squared. And I'm putting these in parentheses because I want to calculate this first, and then I say weight divided by that value. So if I print BMI, I should get, this is the number I get, this is my BMI, or body mass index, right? Okay, so this is it. Now, let's say, let's imagine different scenarios. That is, if the BMI is 25 or more, we print you are overweight. If it is between 18.5 to 24.9, you are healthy, and below that you are underweight. So let's have these scenarios. So if BMI that we get from the user is less than 18.5, what should happen? We should print you are underweight. Now, elif, it means else if, so we are going to give it another scenario. So elif is a keyword. the BMI is greater or equal to 8.5, greater than this, and another condition, BMI is smaller than 25. So this means these two conditions, and means these two conditions should be true. That is, the BMI, if it is above 18.5 and less than 25. Both of them, if they are true, it means the number is between these two, right? So then we should print, you are healthy. In every other case, else, in every other scenario, let's print, you are overweight, right? So what do you think the result is? Remember, BMI is 22 something. We just calculated that. So if I run, I get you are healthy. Why? Because it goes here, BMI is 20. It's not smaller than 18.5. So it skips this. BMI is 22. It's greater than 18. And it is less than 25. So it fits. So this is printed out. It doesn't get to this one anymore. What if I use OR here? This is another operator. OR means if this one is true or this one is true. Doesn't mean both of them should be true. If one of these is true, and we don't need this here, of course. So we have and, that is both of them should be true. Okay, now let's ask for the user's input. So we want the user to tell us about their weight and height. So for that, we need a float number, right? Because remember, we get the input as a string, so we should turn it into a float. So we say input. And what is the input? Let's say weight. And enter the weight here. And let's do the same for height. Again, we need float with decimal. So input. And here we ask for the height. Now let's run this. Height is 179. Oops, that was weight. So let's run it again. Weight 72.5, for example. Height 179. Let's press enter. You are healthy. But what is my BMI? I want to also know that. So here, right before the print, we can mention another string like BMI is, and here let's have a comma and use our BMI variable, right? So this comma means that I'm going to use some variable here. I'm not putting this inside quotes because this is a variable. And then let's do that. Let's copy this part and paste it here as well, and here as well. So whatever the BMI is, we are going to tell the user this is your BMI and you are underweight, healthy, or overweight. Now let's run this again, and this time I'm going to put a high weight, like I don't know, 90 kilograms, and height is 1.70. BMI is this, you are overweight, right? Okay, so this is basically it, but maybe we need to kind of round this number as well to only 2 digits after decimal point. This is too long. So for that, we can use, let's say, let's just call this one BMI, I don't know, 1. And now we have BMI, just BMI now. And that BMI is going to take this number in BMI 1, which is this, and round it to only 2 digits. So for that, we need to use the round function in Python. We just say round, parentheses, and inside that, what is the number we're going to round? This is the number BMI1, comma, by how many digits? By 2 digits. So I only want 2 digits after the decimal point. Now if I run this again, and let's go for again 90 and 1.70, and I have, you see, 31.14 now, only 2 digits. You are overweight. So remember, again, If you want to compare two things together, values, you should use double equals. If you want to check if something is greater, this greater or equal with this one. Smaller, this. Smaller or equal, this one. Do not use the equal sign for comparing things or comparing values. This is for assigning values, not for comparing them. And also remember the indentation here, you see? The indentation here. And all of these, if, elif, else, in this order, they should be under the same line. So, yeah, that's basically it. Thank you for watching and listening.